early morning in the Kursk region, and a Russian military convoy of more than 15 vehicles rolled confidently along the main highway, just 3 kilometers from the Ukrainian border, because they believed they were untouchable on their own soil, and Russian commanders assured the troops that Western weapons could not reach them here, and that Ukrainian forces would not dare strike so deep into Russian territory, but they were all wrong. And what happened next changed everything. The convoy stretched nearly half a mile long and consisted of Kamaz trucks, Ural military transports, and several armored vehicles carrying ammunition, fuel, and reinforcements heading toward the Ukrainian front lines, because Russian forces needed urgent supplies for their offensive operations near Sumy, and the convoy moved in broad daylight without proper air cover, because commanders assumed that being inside Russia meant automatic safety. But high above the trees, a silent observer was already watching and transmitting live coordinates back to Ukrainian operators. Ukrainian reconnaissance drones from the 53rd Mechanized Brigade and the 103rd Territorial Defense Brigade had been tracking Russian movements along this route for days, and they identified this convoy as a high-value target the moment it left its staging area, because destroying supply lines is often more effective than fighting on the front lines, and the drone teams knew exactly what to do next. The Ukrainian strategy was simple but devastating, and it followed a proven formula that has worked dozens of times before, because modern warfare is not about brute force anymore. It is about precision timing and technology working together, and the FPV drones were about to prove this point in the most brutal way possible. As the convoy rolled forward, the lead vehicle suddenly erupted in a massive fireball, and the explosion sent shrapnel and flames across the road, while the driver of the second truck slammed on the brakes in panic, and within seconds, another drone struck the last vehicle in the convoy, creating a wall of fire that trapped everything in between, because this is the classic ambush tactic, and once the head and tail are destroyed, the middle has nowhere to go. Russian soldiers scrambled out of their vehicles running in every direction, and some tried to take cover under the trucks, while others sprinted towards the nearby forest. But the Ukrainian drone operators were already launching wave after wave of FPV kamikaze drones, and each one carried enough explosives to disable or destroy a military truck. And the operators watched through live video feeds as each drone closed in on its target with perfect accuracy. One by one, the trucks exploded, and black smoke billowed into the sky, creating a cloud visible for miles. And fuel tanks ruptured, sending rivers of burning diesel across the asphalt. And ammunition inside several vehicles began cooking off, creating secondary explosions that ripped through the convoy like a chain reaction. And within 15 minutes, the entire convoy was reduced to burning wreckage scattered across the highway. What makes this attack so devastating is not just the destruction, but the cost-effectiveness of the operation, because each FPV drone costs between $500 and $700, while each Russian military truck is worth at least $100,000, and the ammunition and supplies they carried were worth even more. And this is the new reality of warfare, where cheap technology defeats expensive equipment, and where a small team of drone operators can inflict damage that would have required an entire artillery battalion just a few years ago. The Russian military had no effective response, and their electronic warfare systems designed to jam drone signals proved useless, because many Ukrainian FPV drones now use fiber optic cables instead of radio signals, and these cables allow operators to control the drones without any wireless transmission that can be jammed or intercepted. And this innovation emerged specifically because Russia invested heavily in jamming technology, but Ukraine adapted faster and smarter Russian air defense systems like the Pantsir were nowhere near the convoy, and even if they had been present, they struggled to target small, fast-moving drones flying at tree level, because these systems were designed to shoot down aircraft and missiles, not tiny quadcopters that cost less than a smartphone. And this mismatch between threat and defense is one of the biggest problems facing modern militaries around the world. After the attack, Russian forces sent recovery teams to salvage what they could, but drone footage showed nothing but charred frames and twisted metal, and some vehicles had burned so intensely that only the chassis remained, and the highway was closed for hours, while crews cleared the debris, and the psychological impact on Russian troops in the area was immediate, because if a convoy cannot travel safely just 3 kilometers from the border, then nowhere is truly safe. This was not an isolated incident. Ukrainian forces have destroyed dozens of Russian convoys using the exact same tactics because the formula works, and Russian commanders seem unable or unwilling to adapt, and they continue sending supply convoys along predictable routes during daylight hours and without adequate air cover or electronic protection. And every time they do, Ukrainian drones are waiting. In one attack near the Donetsk region, Ukrainian FPV drones destroyed a convoy carrying fuel and artillery pieces, and the drones hit the lead fuel tanker first, causing a massive explosion that spread burning fuel across the entire column, and within minutes, the artillery pieces were destroyed along with all their ammunition, and the attack happened so fast that Russian troops had no time to react or defend themselves. In another incident near Avdiivka, Ukrainian forces used drones and artillery together to destroy a Russian armored column of 20 vehicles, including 12 tanks and 8 infantry fighting vehicles, because the drones provided real-time targeting data while artillery scattered the formation, and then individual drones hunted down the survivors one by one. And this combined arms approach has become the standard Ukrainian tactic against Russian convoys. The 47th Mechanized Brigade recently shared video footage of another convoy destruction in the Kursk region, and this time Russian forces had 4 armored vehicles escorting the supply trucks. But it made no difference because Ukrainian reconnaissance drones spotted the convoy first, and then FPV drones hit the infantry fighting vehicles and trucks in rapid succession. And the entire convoy was eliminated before it could reach its destination. What Putin and his generals failed to understand is that the battlefield has fundamentally changed, and the old rules no longer apply, because in the past, a convoy inside friendly territory would be relatively safe from attack. But today, drones can reach anywhere, and they do not need permission to cross borders, and they do not fear air defenses or electronic warfare systems, and they cost almost nothing compared to the damage they inflict. Ukrainian drone production has exploded since the invasion began, and in 2024 alone, Ukraine produced 1.4 million drones, with capacity projected to reach 4 million units. And this mass production is possible because the drones are simple and cheap to build, and they use off-the-shelf components from commercial suppliers, and local workshops can assemble them by the hundreds, because the technology is not complicated and the impact is devastating. Russia has tried to counter this threat by deploying more jamming systems and air defenses, but it has not worked because Ukraine keeps adapting and innovating faster than Russia can respond, and new Ukrainian drones now come with thermal imaging for night operations and fiber optic control to bypass jamming, and longer range capabilities that allows strikes 60 kilometers behind enemy lines. And some drones can even carry multiple warheads or drop grenades on targets below. The psychological warfare aspect cannot be ignored because Russian soldiers now fear the sky, and they know that any movement during daylight hours could attract a drone strike. And they hear stories of convoys being wiped out in minutes, and they see videos online showing their comrades running helplessly as drones hunt them down. And this fear is eroding morale across Russian units, and some soldiers refuse convoy duty because they understand the odds of survival are low. Putin has publicly downplayed these losses, and Russian state media rarely shows footage of destroyed convoys, but the evidence is everywhere on social media and independent channels. And the families of dead soldiers know the truth, and the Russian military is struggling to maintain supply lines because so many trucks and drivers have been lost. And this is forcing them to operate at night or use longer, more dangerous routes. And even then, the drones are waiting. Western military analysts are studying these attacks closely because they reveal the future of warfare, and NATO forces are now rushing to develop their own anti-drone systems and small unit tactics. Because if Ukraine can destroy Russian convoys with cheap drones, then the same could happen to American or European forces in a future conflict. And the lessons from Ukraine are forcing a complete rethink of military doctrine and logistics planning. The Kursk convoy attack is a perfect example of how modern technology has leveled the playing field, and it shows that expensive equipment and large armies no longer guarantee victory, and that small, agile forces with the right technology can defeat much larger opponents. And this is why Putin thought his convoy was safe, but Ukraine's drones proved him catastrophically wrong. The burned-out vehicles still sit along that highway as a reminder, and Russian troops passing by see the wreckage and understand the message. And that message is simple and clear, because no convoy is safe and no border provides protection, and the drones are always watching, and they will strike without warning, and there is no defense that works reliably. And this is the new reality of war. Ukraine has turned the drone into the most feared weapon on the battlefield, and Russian forces have no answer, because every solution they try gets countered within weeks, and the casualties keep mounting and the supply problems keep getting worse. And Putin's war machine is being bled dry, one convoy at a time, by weapons that cost less than a laptop and are operated by soldiers sitting safely dozens of kilometers away. This is not the war Putin imagined when he ordered the invasion, and this is not the war his generals prepared for. And the longer it continues, the more clear it becomes that Ukraine has mastered a form of warfare that Russia cannot match, and every destroyed convoy is proof that technology and innovation beat size and tradition, and that the future belongs to those who adapt fastest. The video footage of burning trucks and fleeing soldiers has been viewed millions of times, and it sends a message to the world, because if Russia, with all its resources and military power, cannot protect a convoy on its own territory, then the age of traditional warfare is over, and the age of drones has begun, and Ukraine is writing the rules.